The kingdom of Hollowmere lay cradled between the silver sea and jagged mountains, a realm where fog clung to streets like a restless spirit and bells tolled mournfully from salt-stained towers. Its fishermen swore the mist carried voices. Its children dared each other to whisper secrets into it. Ships arrived battered by waves, yet filled with tales of eerie songs that wove between the tides. At the heart of this kingdom reigned Queen Serenya, scarcely past her 25th year. Her rule had begun in sorrow. Her father, stern and unbending, had died suddenly of a fever, and her mother, beloved by all, had perished years earlier. Many feared the young queen would be brittle as glass or ruthless as her father. But Serenia surprised them. She laughed with sailors, bent to hear beggars' petitions, and was as quick to praise as to scold. Where her father's justice had been iron, hers was tempered with warmth, and in her presence even courtiers notorious for schemes softened their tongues. Yet one wound remained unhealed, a wound older than Serenia herself. On the cliff of Caro Point stood a great lighthouse, once a beacon for all Hollowmere. A century ago, its flame had guttered out on a moonless night, and 12 ships crashed upon the rocks. Survivors babbled of a shadowed figure breathing darkness into the flame. Since then, no keeper had kept its fire alive. Every attempt ended in sudden extinguishing, as though the sea itself rejected light. The lighthouse stood abandoned, black-eyed and hollow, its name cursed among sailors. One autumn night, a storm broke across Hollowmere, lashing sails to shreds. At dawn, a fisherman stumbled into the city, half-drowned, claiming he had seen a pale lantern burning on Caro Point. His fellows mocked him, but his eyes carried terror. Serenia listened, troubled. If there was even a flicker of truth, she needed to know. Against her counsel's pleas, she cloaked herself in plain wool, took a horse, and rode alone at dusk toward the cliff. The road twisted upward between pines that groaned under the wind. Fog coiled thick, muffling hoofbeats. At last, she reached the tower, tall, blackened, windows hollow as sockets. Dismounting, she carried a small lantern and began climbing the spiral stair. The air grew colder. Halfway up, her flames sputtered and died, though no wind touched it. She frowned, holding the empty lantern. "Another fool with fire," said a voice. From the stair's shadow stepped a cloaked figure. His face was half hidden, but in one hand he held a lantern glowing with blue fire, shifting like mist. Serenia's hand tightened on her dagger. "Who are you?" "A keeper," he said softly, "but not of ships. Of things men should not carry." He lifted the lantern, its azure glow throwing strange shadows. "This is the Lantern of Hollowmere. It feeds on truths spoken aloud. Would you offer one?" Serenia felt her heart quicken. She had been raised on cautionary tales of bargains and shadows. Yet curiosity held her. "What if I refuse? Then your flame will never live here. The tower will remain a husk." She hesitated. Then, lifting her chin, she said, "I fear I may never rule as wisely as my mother did." The lantern flared. On the stone wall shimmered her reflection, older, wearier, lined with doubt. She caught her breath. "Honest," murmured the keeper. "Now you see the cost. This lantern does not guide sailors from rocks. It reveals storms within their souls. Men saw their greed, their envy, their despair reflected here. In terror, they steered wrong and found ruin. That is why the flame was left to die." Serenia studied him. "Then why remain?" "Because shadows do not vanish when ignored. Someone must bear them." Something stirred in her chest. A ruler could not turn from darkness. Her people carried it too. "Let me bear it," she said. The keeper's eyes gleamed like moonlit steel. "Would you take this burden?" "Yes. Not to destroy. To understand." He watched her, then pressed the lantern into her hands. The blue fire hummed, whispering, snatches of her counsel's doubts, her people's envy, her own pride. It was overwhelming, yet she did not flinch. "Then Hollowmere may yet see dawn," he said, and faded into mist. Alone, Serenia climbed to the tower's crown. She set the lantern within the great glass housing where flame had once burned. Below, the sea spread black and endless. For a heartbeat, nothing stirred. Then the lantern flared, its glow casting shimmering reflections across the waves. Ships at sea shuddered as sailors beheld visions in the glow. Some saw their greed twisting their faces, others their cowardice, others their secret longings. Some prayed, some wept, some steered away from ruin. Not all escaped. Those who denied what they saw found themselves dashed upon rocks, but those who faced their truths found safe harbor. When Serenya returned, word of the miracle spread like fire. Merchants muttered that the Queen's light was dangerous, priests argued it was divine, but common folk called it a gift. Serenya herself tended the lantern nightly. She learned its whispers, its secrets. Each evening it showed her not only her own flaws but glimpses of her people's hearts. She saw the baker's envy, the sailor's despair, the child's loneliness. It was both burden and blessing. Yet power breeds peril. In the Queen's council sat Lord Dareth, a sharp-eyed noble who long coveted the throne. He demanded the lantern be brought to the palace. Why risk our queen upon a stormy cliff? Let us study this magic, harness it to guide warships, to uncover traitors. Serenya refused. The lantern was not a weapon, she said, but a mirror. But doubt spread among the lords. One winter's night, as the sea raged, Dareth stole into the tower with armed men. Serenya was there, tending the flame. He seized the lantern, declaring, "With this I shall unmask all liars in Hollowmere. None shall hide sin again." The lantern flared violently, flooding the chamber with blue light. Dareth cried out as shadows twisted around him, reflections of his greed, his lust for power, his secret betrayals. His men fled, but he could not move. With a final shriek, he vanished into the lantern's glow, leaving only ashes. The flame dimmed, and Serenya barely caught it before it guttered out. Breathless, she realized the truth. The lantern did not forgive deceit. It devoured those who fed it lies. After that night, no lord dared question her stewardship. She carried the lantern not as a trophy, but as a burden. When storms came, she climbed the tower herself, holding it steady. Sailors began to say the Queen's courage was stronger than stone. Years passed. Hollowmere grew wiser, not because storms lessened, but because its people faced themselves. Quarrels eased, greed softened, justice deepened. Children whispered that the Queen spoke nightly with the sea. At last came a storm fiercer than any before. Waves higher than towers battered the cliffs, ships tossed like toys. Serenya climbed the lighthouse, her cloak drenched, lantern in hand. The flame flickered, nearly snuffed by wind. She held it high, whispering, "Guide them." For hours she stood against the gale. Sailors later swore they saw her figure blazing in the storm, hair streaming like fire. One by one, ships steered true. When dawn broke, the storm subsided. Serenya collapsed, the lantern cradled in her arms. The keeper appeared once more, his face clearer now, older, weary, yet serene. "You have done what none before dared," he said. "You bore truth without fleeing, and so Hollowmere has thrived." "Will it end?" she asked faintly.
No.
"Truth never ends. But you have sown courage in your people. They will carry it after you." With that, he vanished, leaving only sea mist behind. Serenya lived many more years. She taught her heirs that ruling was not shielding people from storms, but helping them face their own. When she died, the lantern's light dimmed at last. But Hollowmere endured, for its people had learned that no wave, no fog, no shadow was more fearsome than the truths within, and that by facing them, they could always find safe harbor.